All right, we've talked about a lot of Goliaths, but now it's time to bring up the David. And sometimes with David, we get a little bit too infatuated with these receivers, which is what we're doing, obviously, for this particular season and for this particular NFL draft, taking a look at a lot of receivers. But this one, from Liberty, grabbing my attention. Liberty, 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 Liberty. Brennan Albert is here. I am Adrian Fedke. Antonio Gandy-Golden. That's what we're talking about today.
It's funny, right? We talk about David, and normally you think David, okay, the reference is small school guy, probably under the radar. But when I say, yeah, this David happens to be 6'4", 220 pounds, you're like, oh my God, that sounds more like Goliath. He is a big fella, Adrian, and you know what? His film shows it. That's one thing I really liked about his film. There's an old expression, look like Tarzan, play like Jane. No, he looks like Tarzan. He plays like Tarzan. He plays big. He plays into his frame, and that's exactly what you want to see from a guy playing in, smaller competition.
Yeah, and this is going to be a really interesting film that I was curious to see what you would have to say because, we're watching him at a small school, and I'm watching him, drag tacklers against Buffalo. And I'm like, okay, well, that's Buffalo. These guys are like mini dudes, mini me's, but then I'm seeing him do it against Syracuse. I'm like, okay, that gives it a little bit more legitimacy. But going to a point that we're talking pre-show, this you said it reminded you of like an election, right? And for me, it reminds me of the NCAA tournament where you start to get infatuated with, some particular teams or underdogs, that 12 seed or that 13 seed, 14 seed. And what tends to happen is sometimes you have so many people get on this particular team that, well, they just kind of fall flat and they just don't pan out to be anything. So
right.
Sometimes I get it right. Sometimes I get it wrong. Here's the thing. I'm kind of sipping the Kool-Aid on this one. So this is where I turn to you and trying to figure out if I'm sipping too much.
Well, here's the thing. It's all about how high do you buy stock, right? Because we do this all the time where we have so much time between the end of the NFL season and the draft, which is good and bad. And it's bad because sometimes we overhype guys. Now, for Golden here, I think, Adrian, he's probably a high day 3 guy. I think he's got a lot of upside. But I also will go back to a guy like Ramsey Barton. We talked about this pre-show. The guy, Adrian, was like, I've never heard of this guy. And I was like, yeah, most people haven't. Most people forgot about him. Let me pull him up. Came out of Cal Poly in 2009. He was 6'6", 224 pounds, went in the 3rd round to the Giants. And it was kind of a similar situation. And as Adrian said earlier, guys, I think about these as election guys. And what I mean by that is it feels like every 2 to 4 years, all of a sudden there's some guy who's from a smaller school and he's all traits. He's big, he's fast, he's strong, but he's raw everywhere else. And then what happens is maybe we overhype him. We get too excited about him. And then what happens? Ramsey Barton goes in the 3rd round when he's probably more closer to a 5th round guy. And that puts these guys on a trajectory that they're never really going to hit their success. So to me, Adrian, we're obviously going to talk more about film, but I think the one thing I want to say here is this is a very good receiver class. And I think that in many ways it helps ensure that his stock never gets unrealistic, if that makes sense.
That's actually a really good point. That actually makes a lot of sense.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah, that's very, very good stuff from you. So the comparison I made, which is I think would be his ceiling, would be Brandon Marshall. He's at UCF in a smaller school, big body guy, guy with body control, and can make that one-handed catch. Those one-handed catches reminded me of Brandon Marshall when I would think of him kind of shielding the defender and plucking his hand out there. So, some guys have kind of panned out. Some guys have not. Like, I'll give you an example. A couple years ago of Tariq Cohen. I saw him. I was like, I don't know if he's going to really pan out, and look how good he's been. So he's an example of somebody who worked out and was fine. Dallas Goedert was somebody who I really liked. And remains to be seen, I guess, with him, as he enters. It's going to be his 3rd year now. So, the guys come and go, and, sometimes they flash, sometimes they don't.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get to the film, and let's get to the good stuff and what he does best. And, we're going to talk about his jump ball ability and his body control. He definitely has it.
Yeah, Peter, you should see my screen right now, right, brother?
Oh, yeah.
Cool. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to change the playback speed.
There we go. All right. So you got the right player this time.
Yeah, we got the right player this time. So we're going to see him bottom of the screen here. Again, this is versus Buffalo. And one thing I say here, guys, is you got to remember, you draft the player, not the helmet, right? I mean, if this was the case here, if we went into this, like byproduct, or we went into that, then we would just draft SEC players, right? I mean, that's what we would be saying. And obviously, you don't want to go down that. Now, obviously, you still have to grade in the curve. You still have to acknowledge the fact that, okay, hey, this is Buffalo. This isn't Alabama. This isn't A&M. This isn't LSU, right? But the flip side, I also would say, guess what, folks? This quarterback isn't as good as LSU's quarterback, isn't as good as Alabama's quarterback here. So if you're going to, critique him and say, oh, well, he hasn't played with anyone good, I also would say he hasn't played with anyone good to make him, kind of excel. So there's two ways to the coin. But Adrian, let's jump in. We're going to talk about body control here. He has it. 6'4", 220 pounds of him, and he is a fluid athlete as far as extending his body and attacking the rock.
Oh, and you can just see the length. What do you know? Oh, by the way, I'm sorry to pause you here. Do you know what his wingspan was at the combine? Because I thought of Brandon Ayuk as the immediate example. He was 80 plus inches. I wonder. I'll look it up actually as you can kind of look at the film here. Or you look
yeah. Well, and here's the other thing, too. There's a lot of guys who have really long wingspans but don't play with it, if that makes sense. Right?
He knows how to use his.
He does. He really does, Adrian. I mean, he is very, very lanky, but he also does a good job. You can tell he's very, very flexible, and he uses his whole body. There's tons of guys who are really tall and lanky but don't consistently use it. Just like there are guys who are smaller. Perfect example, Jarvis Landry. He's a smaller, compact guy, but he has a really good wingspan, or I should say catch radius is probably the better wording for someone like that. And I think the same thing can be said here about Andrew Golden.
77 inches.
Okay. So
it's good, apparently.
Let's continue to kind of chat. Adrian's going to keep getting some data on that.
Yeah,
but
that's massive, apparently. So I'm going to try and compare to other receivers at the combine as you continue.
Perfect. He's going to be the top of the screen here on this specific clip here, folks. And it's a very similar type of opportunity. Again, how does he attack the rock? Full arm extension here, and then a little extra highlight tape. Hits the Y button on him.
All right, so we've got Brandon Ayuk at 80 inches. Chase Claypool was 80 inches. So 77 really isn't that big. I mean,
it's certainly competitive. I think is probably a better wording to say, Adrian. It's very competitive.
It's very good. The wording that was used was massive in whatever I saw prior, which is, I don't think that's the correct wording. The correct wording is probably like Justin Jefferson's 78, and he's 6'1.5", essentially 202. So same size there. Van Jefferson is 77 and 1/8. So that, I'd say it's better than normal. Denzel Mims 6'2", 210. He's 78 and 4/8.
But I also would say, Adrian, that, again, you can have all these traits. If you don't apply it to the field, it means nothing. And Golden does that.
He definitely applies it.
Yes, AGG absolutely does. So similar clip here again. This is going to be the early one we saw versus Buffalo, just a different angle here. But, again, just goes up and gets it. It's jump ball season when he's playing here.
Yeah. And this is essentially the same thing. This is some body control. This is the bowl game, the Cure Bowl, against Georgia Southern, and talk about his ability to shield the defender here.
This is one of those things that it's like a vet move. And that's the best way I could describe it. It's one of those things a lot of times rookie receivers don't have this polished yet as far as, hey, how can I minimize the opportunity for the defensive back to play through my hands? What defensive backs are taught here, folks, is they are taught to play through the receiver's hands. Meaning, as soon as that receiver is running and he flashes his hands, the first thing the defensive back is taught to do is try to play their hand right up through it. And then if they have enough time, then turn their head around, try to make a play on the ball, right? Well, what we're going to see here is he does a fantastic job, move our faces out of the way, does a fantastic job at not just catching the ball off his hands, but getting his back squared so he really ensures that he can box out the safety to ensure that they have no chance at making a play on the ball. Yeah,
that's good stuff. Good body control right there from Gandy-Golden. All right, so this is where I was talking about earlier. This is the play where he drags defenders for like 20 yards, and this is what he's known for in terms of his YAC ability, physicality. We talked about this a lot with Laviska Shenault, and this is what Gandy-Golden does. So this is Buffalo, and I'm going to show you how tiny these guys are on the replay, but then we're also going to see it again against Syracuse.
I wish, Adrian, there was a different stat. I wish there was a different stat, that it wasn't YAC or it wasn't RAC. I wish it was called PAC, physical after contact or after catch, because that's really more applicable to what he does. And this is a great example of it here. He's going to make the catch here, but now it's not that he has the speed to run away from people. He's just that much bigger and stronger than the competition around him.
I mean, look at these guys. They're so small.
I mean, this is what you see when it's not Power 5 football.
Look at how small they are on this like they're tiny.
Those guys are probably 5'8", 5'9".
But then we see it again against Syracuse. Yeah, sorry.
No, you're fine, Adrian. I mean, again, like these guys are probably 5'9", maybe 5'10". I'm probably shortchanging them.
Like, is he scoring that in the NFL, or is he down at like say the 5-yard line?
That's the knock, right? I mean, like my knock here, Adrian, would be, I want to see you run away from guys because speed translates easier than physicality. Traditional speed.
Yeah, and we're going to get on that later with his YAC and his quickness, and that's definitely what my worry is about him. But I definitely also like Gandy-Golden. All right, so the quick slant, this is where you're going to get into his release. So he doesn't have the quickness after the catch, but he's got it off the line.
This is the thing I would give him, Adrian. I would knock him for change of direction or short area quickness. He can do this out of the snap, which is critical. I mean, that's absolutely critical because you're going to get more and more press coverage. When you get a big guy like this, most defensive coaches are going to say, okay, well, hey, we know he's going to win up the field in jump ball scenarios. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make his life a living hell in the first 8 yards to ensure the rhythm and timing of the quarterback never gets in sync of AGG getting down the field to be in a position for a rebound, right? But he does have surprising quickness when it comes to releases. I don't think he's got great quickness in the open field, but the releases, it frankly is more important than the latter. You're going to see it here, top bottom of the screen, quick jab step here, now quick slant, and make something happen with it.
There you go. So he knows how to use his stiff arm. And there we go again. I mean, like, he's dragging dudes for like 20 yards. So this to me gives it at least a little bit more legitimacy because it's Syracuse. Because when I saw it against Buffalo, I'm like, yeah, those guys are little, but these guys are actually kind of his size.
Yeah, I mean, again, the size difference is very noticeable when you get out of the Power 5, right? When you get out of the Power 5 conferences, the Big Ten, ACC, SEC, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, you're certainly going to notice that, Adrian. But my big knock, like I had on him, is just overall explosiveness and speed. Let me run this one back. I'm going to play this one in full speed so you guys really get full.
Yeah. Do that.
Here we go.
I mean, that's not like change of direction or quickness. That's just the cornerback misplaying. But then we do see the physicality there at the end for the.
Yeah, I mean, look,
from the 40 with the stiff arm, and then obviously breaking the tackles there.
100%. I mean, look, this is what concerns me. When you look at guys that are able to close, when guys are able to close on you, that's what tells me, okay, you don't really have the real burst in the vertical speed. He's got great physicality, no doubt about that. He's obviously strong, but the burst and the vertical speed is something that I still kind of worry about. And I don't care what the combine tells me. I don't care at all. And the reason I say this, Adrian, is the combine here, okay? This is like your ACT and your SATs, folks. Does it matter? Absolutely. But your game film is your high school transcript. That's a better body of work. And one thing we always got to remember here is when receivers or defensive backs or whoever runs to the combine, they're running in a three-point stance in a quiet stadium, straight ahead, where no one is around them and no one is redirecting them. That doesn't happen in football. So I understand that his 40 time, Adrian, was like 4.6 something. I think it was
4.6.
I don't see the 4.6. And that's why, like, I don't get all jazzed up on the combine stuff because it doesn't always tell me what he is in real life.
All right, so now we're going to look at the hands. We're going to look at some one-handed catches. Well, at least one here. And this is a slot fade. This is beautiful. Stacking, too.
Nailed it, Adrian. Perfectly said here. I'll play this one full speed, then we'll run it back. He makes those plays with his hands that will make you just absolutely drop your jaw. Just absolutely say, oh, crap. is unbelievable. And he's got big mitts here, and he uses them really well. And again, we talked about full extension. And Adrian, I think one thing that we don't talk about enough, eyes. You catch the ball with your eyes first, not with your hands. He does a great job on back-to-back clips here of just tracking it perfectly with his eyes all the way in.
Well, this clip is beautiful because you can really see him literally looking back for the ball. And there he goes again. I mean, just down the sideline, breaking tackles because they're so small. Can't put them down.
Right. Yeah, I mean, he physically, Adrian, has the size of a Power 5 guy. He's one of those guys, Adrian, I can't help but wonder this, right? Like, he's one of those people that probably would have benefited from actually transferring. Transferring from a Liberty to a Virginia Tech, right? And kind of playing on a playing field where he's more of the size. Or, like you said, does he want to be kind of the Goliath playing around a lot of Davids? I think both things are fair things to say about him, Adrian.
All right, let's get to his hands. This is just a quick example of him not being a body catcher.
Yeah. So this is something, Adrian, that's critical. When you have big frame, use it. Look, he catches that with his hands, okay? It is too easy on comeback routes, folks, to let the ball just come into your pads. And he does a really good job at catching it with his hands. That is a huge perk because, Adrian, you can tell me all damn day long how long a guy's wingspan is, how big his hands are, but if he allows the ball to get into his chest, he's not using his assets to his best ability. AGG does that. He does a good job at really attacking the ball with full arm stride, and that's why, Adrian, his film makes it look like his arm length is so much longer than what it is in the combine.
All right, so here's where we're going to look at change of direction, and this is Buffalo. I believe this is a wide receiver screen where he tries to kind of turn the corner along the right sideline and just really isn't able to do much here.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is Buffalo. It's a non-Power 5 school here. I mean, you'd like to see him, a little stop-start, and he breaks the tackle. But, I mean, really, Adrian, that's a gain of 3 yards. And what's kind of a bummer here, and let me kind of run this one back, and I want to go full speed on this because I think this is kind of a critical play to really give that assessment, right? So there we go. So when he catches this, right here at 35, right? He's got at least 8 yards between the safety. He's got at least about 6 yards between the back.
How far everybody else is from him, man. When you look at like that, it makes it look even worse.
Yeah, I mean, Adrian, that's a gain of 6. Like that, really, it's from his work. It's a gain of 6 to 7 yards, and that's not what you want to see from a guy who's going to play on Sundays.
Like I realize that who's number 40? Is that the offensive lineman or is that the fullback there? But
yeah,
he got away there. But still, he should have got more yardage.
Yeah, again, it's the stop-start ability, of him here.
Nah, he didn't really get in the way too much. So there it is. Yeah, all right. Next thing, this is – okay, I remember this play. So this is a stop route here. And, this is maybe the lack of the route tree and the lack of understanding, not coming back to the ball. And, this just came into my mind. I just made this thought. So, you talk about falling in love with Cinderellas, right? Well, when Laquan Treadwell was with Ole Miss, this is Hugh Freeze. This is,
yep.
And I was like, yeah, he's going to be a bust. I'm not really that high on Laquan Treadwell. Well, why am I high on Antonio Gandy-Golden, but wasn't high on Laquan Treadwell? I might be falling victim into this trap.
I think that's a very fair thing, Adrian, especially on this next clip. This next clip, I think, is a very fair statement to kind of hone in what Adrian's talking about here. Route running is one of those things that a lot of times you can get by in your competition based on your skill, but obviously as the skill level rises around you, you're going to have to fall back on your craft. And what we're going to see here, guys, in this comeback route doesn't really do a great job at getting explosive, get a hard first step out to come back to the football, kind of more so rounds it and then waits on it. And that's a bummer, man. I mean, that's a bummer here for me. I got to be honest with you, Adrian. And to me, if I am going to be positive Paul, I'm going to say, oh, this is bad habits. He's just let bad habits form because he hasn't had to do that. But if I'm negative Nancy, I'm going to say, I'm in the NFL. I'm a receivers coach. I don't have time to teach guys these type of things. They should be coming ready to do this. And I could see both sides of the coin here, arguing those type of statements here for him.
Yeah, when you look at that replay and you just see him waiting there for the ball, look at him bouncing up and down, literally waiting for the ball instead of coming back to it.
Right, exactly. Come back to it, box out, get your shoulder right here. I want to see him get inside closer to the numbers, get his shoulder blades and his nameplate right in the face of this corner to ensure this corner has nowhere to play this. If this corner was maybe a little bit better and he's square, he's picking this off and it's going the other way because he's opened as a receiver. You've opened this whole hallway for me as a corner to undercut this.
That's Melifonwu. I'm going to guess that's Obi Melifonwu's brother. So.
Yep.
All right, so last clip here. What are you seeing here for this deep ball? You want to see some more long? Actually, I saw it when you sent me back the notes, and you see this replay right here. You see how short his strides are, and I'm like, okay, I see what you're trying to say here. Okay, so you want to see more long strides here with the deep ball.
So when we're talking about the sluggo, okay, that's what this route's called, sluggo. We're going to play this one full speed so you guys can kind of see it. But a sluggo. Sluggo is a combination of a slant and go, hence the slug and the go, right? So he's going to run up, he's going to fake run the slant. What he's going to try to do here is once he gets about his second step into the slant, he's going to plant hard with his inside foot. In this situation, it's going to be his left foot, which then means his right foot needs to get vertical. So the left foot's on a 45, the right foot now needs to go back straight up and get to a 90-degree angle and get straight vertical. What you want this right foot to do is gain as much ground as possible. If he picks the foot up and puts it down, now what's going to happen is let's say, for example, I'm going to reset this, okay? Run, 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 run. Left foot's here. Right foot has to get vertical, right? But if I pick up my right foot and I put it down, now all this does is it causes my left foot to get here. Now I've taken 2 steps, and I've only gained maybe 3 or 4 yards. Opposed to Adrian, run, 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 plant hard with my left, throw a big right foot step. Now it's a big left foot step. Now all of a sudden we have more separation. And he doesn't do a great job of it here. Kind of drags that back right foot a little more than I would have liked personally. He's a big strider. Use it. Use that big stride here. I think Adrian, the knock of route running on him is very, very validated.
All right. So as we close things out here, this makes me not like him as much after we break him down, which kind of sucks because I really liked him before the show. You see, you do this to me sometimes.
I'm sorry, brother.
You get me like, oh, man, like you make me question my evaluation because this happened with Jalen Reagor too. I kind of liked him a little bit more than you did, and now like I'm not really as high on him at all. So we'll see how this process plays out. But in terms of AJG though, and a fit for the Eagles, I don't know if it's there because he's kind of, again, the back shoulder, body control, and I don't know if that really works for Carson.
Here's my thing, okay? I think he's an absolutely guy that can play on Sundays. He's absolutely all traits, which is fantastic. Big body, red zone, back shoulder, all traits. And you know what? Traits guys typically go on day 3. Your full polish guys go on day 1. Day 2 maybe is a guy who has day 1 talent, but maybe has some injury or isn't have the long-term body of work to show that this is who they are. They go on day 2. Day 3 is the guy who's just traits and a little bit raw. Everything I just defined is what AGG is. If I drafted him middle of the 4th round, Adrian, I'd be fine. I think that's a very good value position for him. Anything more than that, I think you're asking for more than realistic, and I think you're setting yourself up for failure. Now, for the Eagles, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me, Adrian, because big body possession guy, that's what tight ends typically are. You got 2 really good ones in Philadelphia. And whether you want it or not, you still have Alshon Jeffrey on contract there. So I don't think it's a big need. Oh, and by the way, you drafted J.J. Arcega-Whiteside last year. All right, so now there's 4 guys, right? So I don't see him as a need fit for the Birds. I think he's a guy who would do really well in the NFL, but he has to go to a team who is just looking for him to be the big body threat and not ask him to do anything of type of like stretching the field vertically. I don't think that's where he's at personally, Adrian.
Okay. All right. I think that wraps it up. Anything else? Anything we didn't touch on here on him?
No, I think we're good.
All right. That was a pretty good breakdown on AGG for the people who probably haven't seen him. There is film out there on him if you want to check him out, but you know, this is one not too many people know about, but now you guys know.
Yes, sir.
There it is. Antonio Gandy-Golden, Adrian Fedke. That's Brennan Albert. We're out. Peace.
Appreciate it.